Now let us prepare our hearts, our minds, and a time of meditation. I invite you to sit comfortably, both feet on the floor. Close your eyes if you wish. Take a few deep breaths. Let go of any distractions or worries that may be on your mind.
Let there be less of me, let there be more of thee, less of the human, more of the divine, less that belongs to me, more that is thine, more of God's nature, and less that is mine. Order and harmony now are in place. Where there is harmony, discord will cease. Where there is harmony, there will be peace. Not personality, individuality, more of the Christ self shining through me. Teach me humility, let me your servant be. Give me serenity, selfless and free. Order and harmony now are in place. Where there is harmony, discord will cease. Where there is harmony, there will be peace. Let there be less of me, let there be more of thee, less of the human, more of the divine, less of the human, more of the divine.
Less of the human, more of the divine. Less of the human, more of the divine. And we take the time now to come together to settle into that bringing together of the human and the divine, to settle into harmony, to settle into peace, to settle into love. As we take a deep, deep, deep breath in and hold it for just a second. And then as you're ready, slowly let it exhale. Slowly let it exhale and begin to release and relax. Begin to relax the body, to let any stress or tension that may be somewhere in the body, let it go. Bringing our attention to that stress, tension, we breathe into it. We breathe into it and we allow the breath to do its magic on that stress. And then we release it. We exhale and we release any stress or tension that the body knows. We begin to focus on the breath, the breathing in and the breathing out, the breathing in and the breathing out, the breath of life, the breath of love, the breath of the universe, the settling breath, the loving breath, the breath of all time, the breathing in and the breathing out, And the shoulders begin to slowly drop and relax, and the hands fall into a comfortable place. And the belly drops. Just let the belly go. Allow yourself to become comfortable where you're seated, focusing on the breath, the breathing in, the breathing out, the loving breath, the cleansing breath. Breathing in, breathing out, the thoughts begin to slow. The monkey mind begins to settle down. The divine comes to our attention. I am a divine being on a human experience. I am a divine being on a human experience. I am divine. I claim my divinity now. And I invite you to claim your divinity. I claim my divinity. I am one with God. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. I am divine. Breathing in, breathing out, allowing ourselves to settle into our divinity, to become comfortable with knowing that in the midst of this human experience, I have everything I need. I have everything I need in my divinity that will move me comfortably, peacefully, harmoniously through this human experience. Focusing on the breath. Thoughts come in and thoughts go. We honor them, thank them, let them go, and focus on the breath, the breathing in, the breathing out, as we move towards a time of silence, a time of silent refreshment, a time of silent renewal, a time in our divinity. I am divine. I am divine. In the silence, I am divine. In the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Feeling refreshed, renewed, filled with faith, filled with imagination. We begin to bring ourselves back to this present moment. And as we come back to this present moment, we come back with images, with imagination of our planet, the lush green planet that's ours to enjoy, the resources that we have, all sentient beings. We bring human kindness with us. We bring human kindness to this planet. We bring human kindness to all sentient beings. We bring human kindness to ourselves and to each other. Taking in another brief, deep breath and slowly exhaling, we open our eyes and say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is.
Why are you crying? My friend, don't you know there's peace in surrender, in just letting go. You carry your problems held tight to your chest. Just give them to Spirit. Let God do the rest. Letting go, letting God, letting go, letting God, trusting in Spirit when self can't go on. If you want to find complete peace of mind, let go and let God. Why are you trying so hard, don't you see? It's time to get centered. It's time to just breathe. All those disappointments will be swept away if you will remember to get out of the way. Letting go, letting God, letting go, letting God, trusting in Spirit when self can't go on. There's change in the wind, so start living again. Let go and let God. If you want to find complete peace of mind, let go and let God. Let go and let God.
Sue Riley, let go and let God. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for being here today and bringing your wonderful voice and music to us. So appreciated. Thank you. And what a joy to have Cylvia Hayes back with us, not a stranger to us. Reverend Cylvia was here in April and did a fabulous workshop for us. and gave a great talk and inspired the Earth Care team at Unity Center of Davis to move forward and bring 2 Sundays a year to the congregation, to our ministry, to look at Earth Care and all the work that Unity does around Earth Care. And Cylvia, you've been such an energy behind all that. Thank you for the work that you do. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and bring that into your talk, will you?
Well, sure. And I have to say first, before I get rolling in my talk, I speak a lot, not just in Unity congregations, but there too. Different sorts of services. I'm going to be talking to another online sort of climate related earth spirituality community on Monday. You guys do a fabulous job with your online service and with building virtual community. You can really sense it. And I just wanted to express that. And I guess for, as for the other, I hadn't expected to do any sort of a bio, but I am professionally trained, educated, trained, and have been for 30 years, a professional environmentalist through a variety of venues, from business to nonprofit to political position. And eco-spirituality is a huge part of my ministry. And one of the reasons I committed to the ministerial path is I think as we move through a tumultuous time, kind of coming up against having not been in harmony with nature, faith communities and people who are intentionally committed to raised consciousness are going to be increasingly important. So I want to applaud your guys' Earth Care effort and making it such a fiber through the DNA of your community. I think that's terrific. And then the one other piece I'll add before I get rolling with my talk, I have served on the Unity Worldwide Earth Care team for longer than I can count. I actually need to go back and determine how long now. But we have been, over this last year, creating a whole body of work called 12 Powers for the Planet. And I have put a link to that. The first 3 modules are up, and there's a link to that in the chat. And either by or shortly after the first of the year, all 12 modules will be up. And what this is it's a pretty robust set of material for each module that sort of earthifies, that's my word, it earthifies and freshens up our Unity 12 Powers teachings. So I'm pretty excited about it. I wanted to share that with you all. All right, now to the order of the day, which is order, one of our 12 powers. There is an order that underpins all of creation. It's a natural intelligence. It's a coded design that sort of allows life to beget more life, to create. And all non-human species kind of naturally demonstrate this life intelligence, this built-in order. They naturally evolve to changing environments, naturally find how to fill their roles in sometimes very complex ecosystems and very intricate relationships. Now, modern humans have largely lost that connectedness. We've largely disconnected from the rhythms of nature, but that coding is still within us. That interrelationship is still within our genetic and I would say spiritual coding. In addition to that, we also have access to divine order, which is a flow, a life architecture that allows us, when we develop that sense of oneness, it allows us to increase the depth of our awareness of ourselves as spiritual beings, only temporarily in these bodies. And it allows more order on all sorts of levels to flow to and through our own lives. Now, today I'm going to talk about the principle of divine order, but I'm not going to BS you because that's not my way. Really hard stuff happens. I always say this human part of the journey is not for wimps. And speaking from the I, but I believe it will resonate, there are many times in my life where I question divine order. Where is the order in when a child dies? Or where is the order in war and in insanity that we see going on? Where is the order when I'm diagnosed with a terrible illness? And I think it's really hard. I have a lot of experience with this one as well, to wrap around divine order when we're seeing a loved one just struggle over and over and over and seem unable to get past the problems that they're struggling with. And then certainly, kind of to the theme of this talk or this whole service today, there seems to be a lot of disorder going on in our world and with what's happening, what human interaction is causing to the rest of nature. I just want to state that, because I don't want to ever come across Pollyannish. I don't know why really hard things happen. And I don't know why some people come into this with seemingly much more difficult pathways than others. And I've been asked about soul pattern. I've been, we discuss, maybe we're here to go through hard things to get certain learnings, and maybe to become teachers of those things. I don't know that I buy into that. And I think not completely. I'm at least not going to say I know for sure that's why we walk through difficulties. I think in New Thought, we have the added challenge. We are a spiritual movement that knows the power of personal responsibility. And we know that we do at least co-create our reality by our thinking and by our choices, and we take responsibility for that. And so I think we're often dancing in this paradox of a person is really, really struggling. We see the bad choices, we see the patterned self-destructive behavior. And I think we have to learn the balance. I am learning the balance of how do we work with that without going into blame, either blame of them or even self-blame when we're having problems that seem to recur a lot. So I'm going to dance with that a little bit through this talk. So I don't know for sure why difficult things happen, but I do know at a deep, deep level that everyone can rise above those circumstances. I am sure that many of you that I'm talking to have had circumstances that it just felt like everything was falling apart, only to reflect later that it was actually falling together or coming together. We see that happen over and over and over. And that's one of the greatest things that gives me faith in this divine order. Order is one of the 12 spiritual powers. You guys probably know faith, imagination, release are others. Divine order, in the sense of Unity's 12 powers, it's the power to bring forth a life that is livable and orderly according to divine power, according to the divinity within ourselves. And it's about cultivating a consciousness that enables us to manifest order out of the primordial chaotic soup, if you will. Divine order is always in back of and greater than any of the chaotic events that we might be dealing with in these lives. I fully believe that in the field of possibility, even when it comes to what we're seeing with the challenges on our planet, in the field of possibility, there is more opportunity for good to flow than we can ever see in our human-only awareness and in the appearances right before us. There is a whole other universe that lies beyond the appearances and layers of reality that we see through the five senses. And quantum science now is backing this up more and more. It's very cool to be in a spiritual movement that's also now increasingly scientifically grounded. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Now, metaphysically, the sequence of order is mind with a capital M, like divine mind, idea with a capital I, like divine idea, and then expression. We rise above our human-only level of awareness. We connect again with divine mind. From that place, we hatch an idea. And then as soon as that idea is hatched, it starts to automatically move toward expression. This is because we aren't just bodies. We are extensions, expressions of divine mind. Now, I think that's a cool, heady, metaphysical description. I learned about that when I was going through ministerial school. But I want, given that I think everybody would like to have more practical order in our lives and in our world, I want to make sure that I address this on a more practical level and offer some tools today that I am finding useful. And I'm sure we'll share others when we have discussion group after around this. So one of the things I love about nature is it really is the ultimate teacher. This planet is an incredible demonstration of divine order. Creation begets more creation. That's the drive behind it. Species adapt and evolve. They react to changing environments and find a new order so that works better. Now, I'm sure none of you are unaware of or probably unimpacted by the fact that we are having intensified and prolonged fire seasons in many, many parts of the world. Here in Central Oregon, for sure. Every summer now has been kind of a crapshoot as to what is the air quality going to be here because of these intensified fires. And those can feel like chaos. And when the smoke is heavy, it can feel a bit apocalyptic even. And yet, especially in the West and in many regions in the world, ecologically, fire is a natural and healthy part of the system. It is part of the ecological order. The challenge is fire actually serves an important function. It burns out old dead growth. It creates meadows in overgrown forests where certain species must have in order to feed. Even the burned out logs that wind up washing out in landfills and wind up clogging streams and rivers eventually flow to become really important structure in those bodies of water that create habitat for baby small fish and other aquatic animals to find some still pools that they need for their lifestyle. Now, and the cones, I think a lot of people don't know that with certain of our Western conifer trees, their cones won't even open until they've been kissed by fire. It's a part of the system. Now, the challenge is with climate change and the fact that for many, many decades, humans have been intentionally suppressing fire. We've created conditions where these fires are hotter, they're much more destructive, et cetera, and we're all working with that. I would just encourage you to consider another aspect that's happening here is Mother Nature is also adapting. She's adapting to a changed chemistry and a hotter world that we're creating. Almost all species, other than humans, live in the present moment. For any non-human animal that's not in horrific, abusive circumstances, it doesn't sit around and wonder about what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. It doesn't worry. It doesn't either reflect on the past or feel guilty or regret. Talk about order. I mean, can you feel the liberation in that? Nature offers us so many examples. It's one of the reasons I love dogs. There's a reason dog spelled backwards is God. Boy, if they don't teach you being in the present moment, I don't know who does. And sometimes it's annoying to my human self, but mostly I love it. Biomimicry has actually become a field of study. You can get certificates and degrees in biomimicry. And what that is it's the deep study of nature as a model for how to create human things. One of the most classic examples is Velcro. The idea for Velcro actually came from a guy closely examining the little cockleburrs. And as he'd pull them apart, that little frond would go out and snap back. And that's where the idea came from. Biomimicry can also be taken to a spiritual level, because one of the best ways for many, many, many people, myself included, to get grounded when we are feeling disorderly is to unplug and to get back out into the rest of nature that we are a part of, that we share this planet with. So that is my first practical tool, is to not just sit in rooms and praise nature and work on her behalf like I do. I know so many environmentalists who never get out into the environment. I've been in that situation myself. So getting out is really, really important, I think, to bringing divine order into our life. The next little practical tool that's been very useful to me is to use selective memory. When I'm feeling questionable or uncertain, when I don't know how something's going to play out, I like to go back to a few times in my history when I was in a very disorderly place and play out what happened. So when I was about 16, my parents' addiction and mental illness it went to levels that were super destructive, and I wound up on my own. And it was a tremendously scary and uncertain time. I was living here and there with different friends, trying to make it to the end of high school. I was all that stuff. I could not see a way through it, but here I am. There was a way through it. There was a wonderful set of ways through it. There were many mistakes made, et cetera, all that too. But here I am. And when I look back on that, I actually see the divine order, because I think the worst thing that could have happened would be that I would have stayed living under the same roof with my father. It was a very destructive situation. In another instance for me, almost a decade ago, and Rev Richard knows a little bit about this, my life blew up in a big, spectacular public fashion that was truly extraordinary, and really I came as close to not having any more life than I ever have in my existence here. I could not sense a way through it, but it was the beginning of a spiritual rebirth for me, and I could sense an order perking through the chaos. And it has turned out to be just the most profound, wonderful, life-changing experience. I used to call it the big ordeal. I now call it the big initiation. So I think sometimes it's useful when we're looking at others who are struggling, or when we're struggling, just to think back on times when we've felt it before and it actually all has come out. It all has shaken out. And then again, I know I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but a really prioritized spiritual practice, I think, is essential for creating conditions for more divine order to flow into our lives. Whatever that spiritual practice is for you. I know for me, I have to discipline myself to make sure that my morning practices actually include genuine silent meditation and not just study. When I do that, I am in a consciousness that allows more order to flow into my life. Divine order, working with that energy really helps us to, I think, prioritize that spiritual fitness. It is an aspect that it requires and that it empowers. I am finding, because I have tended to be a bit of a workaholic, I am finding that part of divine order and part of spiritual fitness is a little bit of self-grace and not making everything work. I am playing with the idea of saying working on it less. I'm now playing on this next facet of my spiritual growth. A Course in Miracles says you actually need do very little. You just need to be willing. You need to have a little willingness. But that willingness thing is tricky, because what it's really talking about is you need to be genuinely willing to not play victim. You need to be, or identify as victim. You need to be genuinely willing to allow your identity to radically shift. It's a willingness. It's a release of resistance that allows more order to flow. Course in Miracles also says that stuff that's very, very simple, but it ain't easy, right? It's a simple concept, but not necessarily easy to shed these human personalities, these human attachments. One of the things that has really benefited me a lot lately, one of the biggest growing edges for me in my spiritual journey has been the release of dualism. I came from a pretty heavy-handed Southern Baptist type Christian background that did a lot of damage, to be honest. And my growing edge has been moving past the concept of this God out there and separate and all of that dualism. And I went through a phase where, okay, I'm getting this. I'm starting to really feel this non-dualistic creator, spirit, source. But what does that mean for my personal relationship with creator? And I'm going to pull in A Course in Miracles again, because this concept was unbelievably helpful to me. A Course in Miracles describes Holy Spirit as the aspect of ourselves that knows us and also knows creator. It's the aspect of us that never bought into separation. And so I've now started playing with, I'll talk to the big HS, and that's Holy Spirit / highest self. Like, all right, I'm basically saying highest self, spiritual self, you guide this decision. That when I can move from that level of decision making versus my human only littleness decision making, there is a lot more order around me. I will just share that piece. There is an artful balance, I think, between taking steps in our material realm, between doing things that are wise and are required. As like Buddha said, you know, you get enlightened and then you go chop wood, right? There's a balance between taking the steps in our life, but also rising a little above and a little out. And as was sung about early, kind of letting go and letting God do the higher lifting. That, I think, is a powerful universal handshake. And then one final tool I want to add. This is just a quirky little thing that I came up with myself, but has been really super helpful. When I was one of my ministerial classes that we are required to take, I'm very newly minted, so all of this is fresh for me, was a prosperity class. And part of the homework that the instructor gave us was to keep a prosperity success journal. So every time any bit of prosperity showed up, we'd write it down. I have shifted that a little to what I call a blessings journal. And I'll write down anything that happens that's positive. What I like about that it is especially helpful to me when I'm in a challenging situation or when I'm feeling lack. Because if I'm thinking about, oh, what am I going to write in my blessings journal? I'm looking for blessings, right? It's a lens shift. And it is producing more order in my life. Now, I think one of the biggest challenges when it comes to divine order is how do we help another person to find more order in their lives, especially when these are people who have made chaos kind of a comfort zone. I have a powerful example of that with a young man. He's in his 30s now, but I've raised him off and on over the course of his lifetime. And what I've learned through that, I've helped him in every single way in this material plane that you possibly can, many times. And about a year and a half ago, he got angry and chose to just completely distance from my partner and I. And I knew it was a bad decision at the time for him, terribly bad decision. But I also knew I had to let him go. I had to let it go. And but I continued to use the power of imagination, the power of faith. I continued to try to catch myself when I would be in nothing but worry for him, and to continue to hold the possibility and envision the possibility for order rolling through what appeared to be a very disorderly life. And during the time that he was ghosting me, I came across this teaching that intentionally envisioning another being in an orderly situation, intentionally seeing them in healthier circumstances, is actually a form of grace. It's a way of offering a spiritual energy. That's a way of helping a troubled person have more chance to rise into a consciousness of divine order. I think many of us would think of this as fourth dimension work. And he resurfaced a few months ago, and we were talking, and he was in a very low place, and I just told him that I, had been holding him in light and love, and that I knew there were still options for him. And he said, I could feel that you were. It's a thing that kept me going. So I just think that's profound, because at least for me, it's challenging to not really to have to face the fact that sometimes we really cannot help people very much anymore in a material realm, but we can still hold order at the level of divine order and possibility for them. All right. I could not, in good conscience, talk about the concept of divine order when we are sitting in this bat bleep crazy world that we are all navigating right now. Why is it that humankind, allegedly the highest form of life, we have so much difficulty establishing harmonious relationships and orderly progress, while non-human animals, plants, etc., they just move right along. They just move right along for the most part. If we're not interfering with them, they're flowing along in order. Humans create civilizations and systems in an attempt to create order. However, we modern humans have developed technology that outstrips our wisdom. And when we do that, we are actually often creating misorder or disorder or miscreations. We've loosed the mad genies of nuclear weapons and climate change and industrial and plastic pollution and artificial intelligence, all of which are creating more chaos rather than order in our planet. And I believe we've done that because we've been collectively moving through this existence in sort of a dream state, an illusion of separation from creator, separation from one another. We live in a Western consumerist worldview that teaches us that humans are a part from rather than a part of all the rest of nature. And thus the systems and civilization structures that we've created are not in alignment with natural law right now. I would argue they're not in alignment in many ways with spiritual law. You and me, all of us here right now, are here in a precious and precarious time. We are here at a moment where the human miscreations can no longer be ignored because nature is not going to allow it. This is a really profound time to be people who are intentionally on a pathway of raising consciousness, to be here right now at this time. I believe climate change is actually the whole Earth system, Gaia, whatever you want to call it. I believe it is a living entity itself as well. It is actually adjusting and establishing a different order. Now, there is a term, I'm just about to wrap here. There is a term that I love. It's called Chaord. It's CHAORD. And what it means, what it refers to, is when pockets of order rise up out of chaos. And I can tell you, as someone who is immersed in the environmental, climate change, economic system change worlds, that is happening at a scale never before across this planet. There is a new order, new orders probably, already really perking up. We don't hear about it much in mainstream media, but there's a lot moving toward a much healthier way of interacting with one another and with this planet. More and more people are questioning and are challenging status quo systems and societal norms. Just because you consider something normal doesn't mean it's good, right? We're shifting norms. We're rethinking civilization. That's why my little ministry is called the Rethink Ministry, because it's a time for rethinking norms and old ways of doing things. Along with this emergence of dissatisfaction with the current system and structure, a healthy dissatisfaction, along with that, we have technology and knowledge and tools that have never been available before for addressing the challenges. It's an incredible combination. And on top of that, we know it's not just shamans and mystics anymore who know the truth of the quantum realm. There's a realm of universe that is beyond our physical senses. And at the quantum realm, nothing is actually ever lost. Matter is never completely lost. It just converts into a different form of energy. We sitting here right now are more space than we are matter. We're more energy. That is the entire universe. A Course in Miracles also teaches that that an idea in divine mind, which is what every aspect of creation is never lost. It might not be in the physical senses realm, but it's not lost. That means that little soul that didn't quite make it to a viable birth, they're not actually lost. That person who could not handle this human part of their existence anymore, they might not be here in body, but they are not lost. I am actually beginning to really believe that the vast aspects of creation, the ecosystems, the incredible demonstration of God's amazingness, that is the vibrant, vital oceans and coral reefs and tropical rainforests, are not actually lost at the quantum level. There is something regenerative still happening there. We grieve the loss here, and we also assert our rightful power of divine order on a higher plane and a higher level. The word order, I love this. The word order actually comes from Latin ordire, which means to begin to weave. Those of us who are on a path of intentionally raising consciousness, our own and collective consciousness, because both are needed and both are interconnected, we have special roles to play. We know how to hold space for divine order to break through dark appearances. We know how to take both the outer steps and our inner steps to let shift happen. We are here to access and channel divine order and to demonstrate that. We're here to weave lives that are webs of delight. We're here to weave oneness consciousness. We're here to help mend the fabric of creation. I think we're here to learn how to harness our spiritual faculties and become vessels and portals of divine order and spin out a whole new order of humanity. I claim and affirm divine order rolling out right now through each and every one of us and becoming a healing, restorative force for every single life, every single being on this planet and through all of creation. Peace out.